You're not that old. You're young. How can people depend on you?
The average age that people guess me at is 35. When they find out that I am under 30, they'll say, okay, how old are you exactly before we say something?
You're smart. You think about money. You founded a company. You're doing a lot of things in that company. I don't see young people making money in that way.
He's a Gen Z founder leading a tech company.
But people consistently mistake him for being decades older.
How does a deep understanding of history create a mature leader?
We dive deep with today's guest.
What is the salient thing or the peculiar thing that you took out of understanding history?
Whenever there's a major shift in society, history tends to repeat itself in some way. If you understand that, I believe you can make a lot of difference.
Let's come to your company. Tell us about that.
We were watching this Amharic YouTube video. We, for some reason, switched the subtitle and it started writing Arabic for an Amharic conversation. It didn't stop. How do we develop an AI, a technology that understands us? Then the second thing Hasab AI does is we do TTS, text to speech.
Can we depend on you for leadership?
The short answer is yes. When you talk about leadership, you have to know who you're leading. Have you passed through the knowledge that is needed of money that you get suddenly disappears suddenly? I've seen a lot of people thinking that they know everything, but there are so many new things happening every single day, and you cannot have a full picture of everything that's happening around you.
Would you consider yourself as a nerd? You know, I found out I have one addiction. I didn't know that I would be addicted to anything, but I was searching for the things that I really focus on and cannot live without. And this addiction happened to be a very strong urge to talk to individuals like yourself, young people especially. I don't have anything against old folks.
This might get you in trouble, you know?
No. They know. I don't have anything against old folks. They're wise. Yeah. Wisdom is there. But to talk about anything that really is significant for the life that we live today, I tend to go to the young folks, young individuals like yourself than the old folks like our fathers and grandfathers. I'm so excited about this conversation. That's the reason I'm mentioning this. Okay. Can you say welcome to the show?
Thank you for having me. Let's say
absolutely. Who's Kidus?
Kidus. I think it's one of the hardest questions to define yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because there are three glasses that you can see yourself in. How you perceive yourself is one, how others perceive you is other, and how you think others perceive you is another. Right. So I'm just gonna give my explanation of who I think I am and how I think people perceive me. Right. So Kidus was born here in Ethiopia. I was born in Nasala. Grew up here in Ethiopia. I studied software engineering in college. And I would say Kidus is a curious person.
All right.
Kidus loves asking questions. I would consider myself as genuine. It's not a common word to describe yourself in, but I would say whenever I would want to see a positive. I would want to see a straight whenever talking to a person, whenever I need something, whenever I have something to communicate with people, I would say I am genuine about those purposes. So I believe this would be characters that would define me. Genuine, curious, and kind. Maybe ambitious also.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Off mic, off camera as well. We were talking about young people impacting a lot of things in the country, in Ethiopia. And the milestone we had was one of the elections that Ethiopia had.
Yes.
Apparently, I am an old guy now. Now I know that. I was working during that time. It's a very long time ago. And I asked you about your whereabouts during those days.
Yeah.
And you said you were in some grade.
Yes.
I was really amazed. I know what you do today, how impactful your work is. I'm benefiting out of the innovation that you have or the contribution that you and your friends are, giving out to the society in here and outside Ethiopia. Yeah. But you're not that old. You're young, very young. How can people depend on you?
So the gray hair really helps.
Yeah. Okay.
It really helps. Can you guess my age? I think you already know. I guess.
I kind of know.
You
I kind of know.
So, I do not believe the number matters. Of course, it matters in different places, in different times. Of course, there are places that you would get because of your age. But I would say you could go much further than your age. As I grew up, I was always told that I loved staying with older people. So my dad's friends come to the house, I'm with them. I'm playing with them. I'm asking questions or I'm talking to them or something, right? And my mom always used to say this. She used to say, you didn't grow up playing as much, right? So I think that had, I was always, in my friend circle, I was always considered, they're the phrase called the moniker of the friendship. Any young people would know this phrase, right? The responsible one, kind of. There are mistakes that you make, but right. So also the way I grew up also had an impact on this, right? Because I have a very serious family. I grew up in a very strict, pretty religious from my mother's side. So that kind of is how I'm more like people say you're more mature than your age, and the average age that people guess me at is 35. I've spoken to a lot of people, and when they find out that I am under 30, they'll say, okay, how old are you exactly before we say something that does not categorize under your age group. So I would say these are the factors that people do not see. It's just a number, right? How old are you, right? Just for numbers' sake, I'm not that old.
I can see. I can see all those things. Would you consider yourself as a nerd?
No.
You're not?
No, I wouldn't say.
I see you working on a computer here and there, doing this and that, and you founded a tech company, and you are working, leading people in that company, and you don't consider yourself that?
Okay, so nerd is it has become some kind of stereotypic word. Right?
For me, it's not a stereotype because I'm a fan of the Big Bang Theory, the TV series. And the people I know from that TV series
are nerds,
but funny people.
Very funny people.
Very funny people.
Okay.
People I could hear every day and listen to and laugh every day. So
yes.
I don't consider you to be in any way old-fashioned.
So I define nerd is someone that's obsessed with, especially for example, if it's nerd in terms of academia, right? Someone who is obsessed with academia and is really awkward. You mentioned the Big Bang Theory, right? You know Sheldon, right? I would say 2 friends like Sheldon.
All right. Ethiopians.
All
right.
One of them especially is super genius, one of the smartest people I know. We went to college together, and even like interacting with people and all that, doesn't come natural. They have to make an extra effort for that. For me, academically, I grew up a rank student, right? I believe I had a good tech foundation as well and everything, right? But I always had that entrepreneurial spirit and that like sales kind of mentality, right? So that kind of gives me a non-nerd nature. So yeah, people think I'm in marketing.
All right.
The previous company that I was working in, people, while I do a pitch for the company, they always say, "Are you in marketing or sales?" Right? Oh no, I'm the engineering lead. Right? They're like, "Oh, okay. You study software engineering?" Yes. So, like I wouldn't consider a nerd to do that, but the definition of nerd, of course, is ambiguous, right? But if you say, "Are you good at what you do?" Yes, I was good at what I did for a very long time, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, the operational definition I'm giving it for me. I know people in academia have ideas about literature and things related to defining terms or giving operational meanings, but anyone who is obsessed in whatever they do and spend more than an average amount of time in whatever they do, I kind of feel like they're nerds, but it's not a bad thing.
Okay,
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. It's not okay. In that definition, I would say I take a lot of time in things I do. So when I focus on everything, so it takes me a lot of time to focus on something, to decide to do something. I would say I think twice. I would say 3-4 times to decide and do something. If I start doing something, I would not. There must be something significant to make me change my mind, right? So in that context, I would say I'm a super nerd.
Amazing. So you're a Gen Z?
I was born
millennial or Gen Z?
I think I'm categorized. I don't really follow on that. I've never said the word, but I was born in 97. Gregorian calendar.
I think you're a Gen Z. Maybe I don't.
I don't know.
I'm very bad at numbers, so don't ask me to actually think about the.
Do you know the categories?
So I knew, but I forgot. I forgot where that lies. So I don't want to confuse anyone. The reason I asked you that question is because you're smart. You think about money. You founded a company. You're doing a lot of things in that company. We'll be talking about what the company does and the contribution of the company. You hire people and a lot of things happen in there. I don't see young people making money in that way. For example, a guy or somebody could engage in creating a content and make money out of creating some kind of content. It could be for TikTok or whatever the social media that they contribute to. But establishing a company, bringing people together, giving them, leading them, having that skill of understanding what goes right in terms of the money, in terms of the technical aspect of the things, and in terms of actually understanding the behaviors of individuals working for you. It would take someone of a millennial, maybe, I don't know, category to do that, at least for me. Above my age, we can consider those people to be doing all things in that way. But for a Gen Z, I don't believe, or I don't consider a Gen Z to do all those kind of things.
It's pretty interesting times, right? Why I say this is there are a lot of people that I'm impressed about as well, even younger than me. There are a couple of people I advise, much younger than 5-6 years, 21, 22, making millions every month. And I'm always impressed with their progress as well, right? I would say the success, the common success term, right? that age has significantly gone down. Right. I'm not sure, but whenever I talk to my parents, my uncles, about the successes I'm at, or like what I'm doing, who I'm with, the meetings I'm having, and everything, they're very impressed. Like, these are things that we don't even consider like, are they even possible? Right. So these are the things that I'm saying. It's like, it's significantly easier to do things, to be inspired by things much younger, at an early stage, at an early age, and you have the exposure to do that as well. Right. You think as much as you're exposed to. Right. Many of the things, that's why, by the way, the social media, how much the social media is affecting people, kids, right? They have a lot of information about a lot of things. So to make money, go to an 18-year-old kid. They will tell you 5-6 ways how, if they had the resources, what they would do, right? A lot of graphics designers, just as an example, a lot of graphics designers right now teach themselves in 16, 17. By 19, they're making 20, 30K, which is above the average pay of office workers, right? So what I'm trying to say is, in terms of exposure wise, right, that you're exposed to a lot of information, a lot of I would say influence to get yourself to a certain level. When it comes to leadership, I have to say thank you for the people that have guided me and mentored me, especially the company that I've been working at, which is Japa Financial Technologies. I joined as a junior software engineer. It was a small team, and I had the first-hand experience of how to build a company. From a 5-people team to 50-60 people team, from non-product, especially software product. How do you select people? How do you make deals? How do you basically strategize for the long term? So I would say I have to contribute this to the people that I have crossed paths with, that have taught me, that have influenced this path. But in addition to that, maybe one thing that contributed to where I am right now, I'm so grateful, really honored. I didn't even mention this. Really honored to be here as well. One of the things that have contributed to that is I love history. I love reading history. I love reading about especially leaders.
Biography, maybe?
Biography, yes.
Right.
One of the first books at 7th grade that I read was a book called Tamsalitochu. It's in Amharic, like the examples, the leaders, right? So that book was short biographies of Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther, the Protestant, a lot of leaders, Nelson Mandela, Barack Obama, all these people, they were there, and I loved how. So I was so curious, how do these people think? Like, what kind of thought process get them here? I did not fully articulate this question back then when reading the book, but I was very curious how people become successful. How do you have to think to be successful, right? That was, to this day, my dad always says you should have studied psychology, because I'm so curious of what thought process makes a person successful. And from any biography, from any conversation, from any interaction that I have, I try to get that answered, right?
The history. The last time you mentioned that you like history, and I was confused because I mean, you can understand my confusion. You're in computers.
Yeah.
You're a software engineer,
yes,
doing all kind of things related to a computer, and get products out of that and get money out of doing all things related to that machine.
Yeah.
And you were telling me that you like history.
Yes.
And it's a very different thing. I mean, you're a technical individual
Yes.
who happen to like what is not technical, or something that repeats, or something that comes around.
Yeah. Basically a different path. It's totally separate path.
A separate path. And I wouldn't understand anyone telling me that, but I was curious. I asked you a question and you answered it, but I want my audience to know as to what are the things that you took out of history.
Yeah.
What are the lessons that you learned? I mean, you mentioned that reading biographies of individuals, leaders like you mentioned Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela, and the others.
Yeah.
I can understand the lesson that you can get from these individuals or reading about their life. But what is the salient thing or the peculiar thing that you took out of understanding history?
If I have to put it in one sentence, right? History repeats itself one way or another. It might not repeat itself like a replay, of course, because times change, people change, society changes, everything changes, right? Technology changes, right? But if you see how things change, right? They have a very common pattern. Now, I can give you an example. The Industrial Revolution, steam engines, electricity, medieval ages, right? Those things changed a lot of things. A lot of people thought we were not going to have jobs, right? It's like there was a chaos. But then there were more jobs created. People are still working, and there are a lot of jobs, right? Now, AI is in the picture, and people say, "Oh my God, we're not going to have jobs." So there's a pattern, right? Whenever there's a major shift in society on things, how things move, right? History tends to repeat itself in some way. So if you understand that, I believe you can make a lot of difference. So I'm all for impact. I'm all for influence, right? So if you understand that it just makes it much easier. So I would say from history, what I got is history repeats itself. But I also want to mention this, why I like history. It's not just about biography for me. My dad loves reading. He's my inspiration when it comes to reading books, especially history books. So after my high school ages, I would say 9th, 10th grade, I basically indulged myself in reading a lot of books, from fictions to biographies to history. But history was something that was very close to my heart because my dad used to tell me about stories of the previous regime, the Derg regime, the Haile Selassie's regime, and everything. So now I started with a book called Sarah, which is a fiction history book. It has a little bit of truth and a little bit of history, but it also has fiction. I love that book. It's a 3-series book. Read that, and I have to know more about how people think. How did we get here? Right? It's like there's this famous phrase from Teddy Afro's song, which says in Amharic, it's "Yahala Kalile Lemefitu." Right? It's if you don't have a past, you don't have a future, you don't have the present. Right? So if you don't know how you came, what things made us come here, then you have half of the picture. You only know what's happening. You don't know what got us here, right? So that was one of the basic curiosity that gets me into it. So I loved law. I loved history.
Amazing. You mentioned, talked about a very important point, history and history repeating itself. I kind of feel like you know what you're talking about. And what I'm really amazed about these days is I communicate with young people, and a lot of them knows what they're talking about. And can we depend on you for leadership? I mean, for the future of the country, maybe. I'm not talking about maybe politics, or it's not like that. For example, it could be in business or anything. And you mentioned impact.
Yeah.
The impact can come in terms of leadership in politics or in business and technology and other things.
Yes.
Do you feel like we can depend on the coming generation to take the country to the height that we want the country to go to?
It's a hard question. I don't think there is a yes or no question answer for this. But as I believe, the short version is yes. The longer answer would be, look, you can't just hand over a food to a baby and expect it to figure out how to eat, right? I would say there is much expected, especially in terms of exposure that I mentioned earlier, right? Giving responsibilities. Look, what makes a strong leader? What are the components? Read about all the strong leaders you see in the world. They all pass through turbulence. They all pass through hardship. Now, almost, including me, we grew up very comfortably, relatively comfortably, right? Good family and everything. So this is true for a lot of people, right? So now, there's a huge difference when you compare the leaders that have gotten us to here and the leaders that you admire, and the leaders that you're bringing up that are growing right now, the Gen Zs and everything, which I am talking about myself as well. I don't want to. This is not about the others. This includes me as well. It's not us. We don't have the full picture of the problems, right? The real, say, you mentioned about leadership, right? Now, when you talk about leadership, you have to know who you're leading, right? Be it in business, right? It's not just politics. Anywhere you are, you have to see the problem that people are facing, right? When you have a company to lead, you have to know how your employees are feeling, right? So a person who's not an employee, who was never an employee, would not understand how an employee would feel, right? So I believe passing through that, be it turbulence, learning phase, exposure, it doesn't have to be, you don't necessarily have to be an employee to understand an employee, but have you passed through the exposure enough to be a leader, right? Have you passed through the knowledge that is needed, right? So there's a famous Bible verse that my mentor used to mention a lot. ድንገት የሚከማች ሀብት ይጠፋል or ትጠፋለች. In English, you would say a money that you get suddenly disappears suddenly, right? So I believe that is one of the biggest problems that our generation have. We need things fast. We need to achieve everything fast. Everything is on fast forward 20x, right? It's like TikTok's 1 minute scroll, right? But if we give the people, if I would say the generation that's on the leadership right now gives enough exposure as they are giving right now, I would say things are changing. I do believe there are a lot of potential to lead. And short answer, yes, we can lead.
But we're hesitant most of the time because of predominantly because of the impact of technology and how you are exposed to this dopamine effect, and everything is related to getting satisfied immediately and getting answers right there.
Yes.
And the answers could be related to getting money or getting some kind of gains in other forms. So I'm somehow confused because are we going to give this country to people like that? And I am in that category as well because I watch TikTok.
You're not that old.
No, I definitely watch those things, and I'm somehow not certain about all those things. That's the reason I asked that question. And let's come to your company. Tell us about that. Hey, it's a surprise for me because one of the most difficult things I used to do was related to generating some kind of content in Amharic. And artificial intelligence, ChatGPT was doing a lot of that, but in English.
Yep.
Then came DeepSeek and all the other versions. But I made sure we talked about something saying, do you happen to tell me about one of the things that you are working on, your company is working on, and you started showing me on one of the apps, Telegram, and you did a lot of things, and there was a miracle. We asked it a question, and every time I tried something from GPT or the other versions, if it is in Amharic or other languages of Ethiopia, it was incorrect. Yeah. So we got a very amazing answer. So I was really surprised. Tell me about all that.
Great. So the company I founded is called Hasab AI. Of course, with my co-founders. Hasab AI is a local AI company focusing on language. The motto itself, our slogan is breaking language barriers, creating opportunities. Why did we get here? I think that's starts with why, right? That's a key question. Me and one of the founding team, we were watching this Amharic YouTube video, and we, for some reason, switched the subtitle, and it stated Arabic detected, and it started writing Arabic for an Amharic conversation. It didn't stop. I consider myself as a technology person. So does my co-founder, and so the all other AI engineers in Google and Microsoft and everyone. But this simple, silly thing, it's a subtitle. All these resources we have, right? Okay, so we need to do something about it. So at Hasab, we try to tackle this problem. How do we develop an AI, a technology that understands us? So we started with transcription. We started with Amharic and Afan Oromo to change the voice to text. To process any audio, you need to have it as a text. You can't search an audio. You can't post-process it. You have to listen to every bit of the audio to get the information out. So we believe changing an audio to a text on a better accuracy is the first step. So we do transcription. Then the second thing Hasab AI does is we do TTS, text to speech. Now, if the AI, if the technology listens, understands the language and writes it, how about we teach it to speak Amharic, Afan Oromo, Tigrinya, all the local languages? So at Hasab, we do transcriptions, we do translations, and then we build assistants. Now, that is what you've been interacting on Telegram with. On Telegram, it's a Hasab AI assistant. It's an assistant that understands your language. That's the motive behind it. You go to Telegram or any social media, and you want to find something, you want to write in your own language, you want to ask, you want to get information in your own language. So, one of the top researchers once said, you think as large as your language allows you to think. So if there's a barrier in your native language to acquire knowledge, then there's a barrier for you to grow as a person, economically, socially, right? So that is the second part of our motto, creating opportunities, right? Breaking barriers, breaking language barriers, and creating opportunities so that people could actually get information easily in their own language that they could understand. So these are the things that Hasab does in a broad term.
How's it going? How's it doing? Are you satisfied with the result and what is happening? I see you on different workshops and gatherings, summits, and you're there giving a speech and telling people what to do with the whole AI thing and localizing the whole AI thing. And are you satisfied now?
I am far from satisfied.
No, right.
It's we haven't scratched the surface. There is a lot to do. We are I would say the world has left us behind by manifold. So satisfaction is not even in my dictionary yet. In Hasab AI company, we're very far away from satisfaction. We have a lot to do. We're working night and day to achieve at least to get to where everybody is elsewhere, right? So we have a lot to do. So where are we right now? I would say we've gotten to a good accuracy level. We've gotten to 95+% accuracy for Amharic, around 92% for Afan Oromo. Tigrinya is coming up around 85%. Now that's where we're at, but we have to give the functionalities that AI has for our society to an actual usable stage. Imagine a language barrier broken in healthcare, in agriculture, a doctor and a patient having different languages, right? Well noted, well scripted, a hospital memo for the doctor for next time checkup, right? For a farmer calling to a call center 24/7 anytime, asking for, oh, it's about to rain, what do I do? And an AI assistant tells them in their own language, oh, this is what you have to do, right? So talk about satisfaction. Oh, we're not there yet. But I also want to add one thing. I've also heard this from a summit at AU. One problem in one country of Africa is almost similar in other African countries. See, most of the problem that we're seeing, I would say 60+%, 70% of the problem that we're seeing here in Ethiopia, I would say we see them elsewhere in Africa. So when we put out a vision for Hasab AI, it's not just for Ethiopia. We want to break the language barrier for Swahili. It's a 200 million people speaking language. For Arabic, all of North Africa, right? So this is the vision that we have as well in terms of satisfaction, right? We're not even at the start level. If the start level, the white line is here, we are even a further steps behind the start line.
Amazing. The reason I asked you about a satisfaction end, I had a guest here, a very dear friend of mine, and your friend as well, I believe. We were talking about localizing it and bringing it into African dialect or African languages, and that was inspiring. But the understanding I had was Ethiopian leapfrogged. Like, we're using ChatGPT, we're using all these large language models, and people are interacting and being assisted by it. I mean, you couldn't imagine this happening for Ethiopia or any of the African countries like 10 years ago or 15 years back. It would be something unimaginable. Someone who's actually using some kind of app in Google or in one of the tech companies in Silicon Valley, that same thing is being used in Ethiopia. So you wouldn't fault me in imagining or in having this understanding that we leapfrogged.
Yes.
And now you're disproving it.
Okay, so let me put it this way.
All right.
Right. I heard someone from South Africa mention this a couple of years back, saying, as Africa, not just Ethiopia, as Africa, we kind of skip some technologies, right? For example, there was a very limited number of cell phones in Ethiopia, just a few years back, right? I remember when my parents have the first Nokia phone,
Yeah.
right? But then in the middle, there were a lot of type of phones. Then a smartphone came up. We had a smartphone. We jumped, right? Come to technology. A lot of computers were old aged, not just in Ethiopia. Then laptop, iPad, tablets, and everything, they're all dumb. So we skip some things, right? So payments, that's an amazing example, right? Credit cards have existed in the world for years. We're still on testing credit cards in Ethiopia, but they have almost become obsolete now. It's digital payments, mobile soft POS, wallets, online banking, right? So that's how I want to put it. We do skip technology and we get to like the next best thing. But when you have that kind of path, what happens is you don't get to set the direction of the growth. You grow as you are shown how to grow, right? Okay, cell phones, right? This is a smartphone, right? We use that phone. If you don't start manufacturing phone, you just accept and you don't represent what you have as a society, because every product, I would say, is a product of how you think, how you live. It's a result of how you grew up, right? So the direction would be set for you. So at Hasab as well, one of the things we always think about is we're here to also set a path for the technology that we're using, right? That was the inspiration that I mentioned, right? A technology that understands us, right? I don't know if I answered the question, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was thinking when you mentioned all those things, I was trying to understand the intricacies and what are the layers in there. And at the same time, I was thinking, how's Kidus leading his team? What kind of leader are you?
Okay. Pretty open.
All right.
I believe in communication. I believe that's the foundation of anyone trying to work together. Good communication is good. So I believe in communication. Anyone in the team cannot do something, just tell me that you can't do it. Don't tell me on the deadline that, oh, oops, I couldn't do it. No, like, oh, I can't do this, right? So in this, I also see, I also want to show my team that you have to prioritize things. If you can't do, you can't do, right? Sometimes, me as an employee, a couple of years back as well, I used to say, oh, I'll take more. I'm busy. I have a full schedule. I don't prioritize and everything. So I want the team to understand the prioritization, time management, because it came hard for me. I learned that in a hard way. So time management, teaching, right? So one is, I would say myself as open for communication. I would want to share every information that I have. I want my team to grow. Any opportunity that I find and I believe they would benefit, I would not hesitate to share. This is also something that I've learned from my bosses from previous companies. It's there is this common phrase, right? Anybody's success does not in any way mean you'll fail, be it your employee, your team, right? It's like, make them successful, make the people around you successful, right? And I would say these are the qualities. But also, I do not like a reluctant person. Like, you have to deliver. It's I might communicate that in a better way. I'm not a hard tone person. I don't shout. I don't do all that. But I want you to deliver. I want you to work. Reluctance and disrespect. These cannot happen.
All right.
I would say this is
amazing. Do you ever see history or the understanding of history interfering in your leadership? Or is there any time or is there an occurrence where you find yourself interpreting things of technology in terms of history?
In a way.
All right.
In a way. I think the history book series that really shaped how I think in a way is one of the most famous authors, technologist.
No.
He had these 3 theories.
You have all Ethiopian people, Ethiopian authors? That's amazing. I like that. That's profound. Because most of the time what we do is we neglect what we have and we go to what the West has. Apparently, I searched a lot, but the difference is not that big. In some areas, we're bigger. So in some areas, we're more profound than what they write. But we tend to go to them for leadership and understanding of history and all that. I appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you. Really appreciate that as well. But just to add on that, look, why I study history? Let me start from that as well, right? Look, the very curiosity question that make me read history is, how are we here? So if you want to study about how we are here, the history of other countries wouldn't really help, right? It doesn't mean I don't read. I love African history as well. But first you have to understand how we got here. That's the whole, I would say that's the whole sense of history, right? Coming back to the question that you raised, you said how has it actually affected decisions, right? Instances. Tewodros, Emperor Tewodros II, pretty visionary. With all the negative comments, all those. Yes, I'm not able to get that, but I would say he was very, very pioneering in a lot of things, right? The eagerness to bring technology to the country, right? Of course, it ended miserably, but I always learn from that. You have to be smart, right? You have to, just because you want it and it's for a good cause, doesn't mean you have to get it at that time, right? It's like, so there was an instance that I needed something from somewhere, and I wanted to get that. It's then I had to reflect back and say, okay, maybe this could be something that could put me to a suicide, right? So it actually reflected it. I was reminded of other Tewodros, right? Emperor Tewodros II. It was for a good cause. He wanted technology. He wanted to raise his people from where they were. But the way he did it wasn't smart, right? So now, okay, you have to be smart. So any decision that I make, I try to refer those kind of areas. So of course it does. It really affects, especially decision making.
Yeah, amazing. I'm inspired. I'm really inspired. You know, I had another guest, a very great person now I know as a friend. Melat was the guest, and she mentioned something about pre-colonial history of Africa, and she mentioned something about Mansa Musa. Apparently, this is a guy, a king of Mali, who used to be really wealthy and influenced what happens around the world. And you now again telling me about Africa and all this history lessons and everything like that. And there was another guest as well, young person like yourself, and I don't know you people. I don't know these young people. I mean, I have my stereotypes in my mind. What I have is whenever I approach young person, he'll be telling me something that he read or he saw from TikTok, or he saw from IG or one of these social media apps. And I don't expect that person to be profound about anything or deep about anything, but I'm dumbfounded when you tell me about all these kind of things and the correlation or how they relate to what happened in the past in Ethiopia. And I mean, I'm telling you about the hope I have now.
Yeah.
It's a newly found hope for the country in Ethiopia and Africa as well. I'm amazed about some other thing as well. How technology is adopted in Ethiopia and how it is spreading in the country, throughout the country. I meet young people everywhere and they have all this understanding about how machines are operating, how they're developing different apps. Was it the same all along? Was I missing was I missing anything?
Let's frame it in this way. How we perceive technology here in the country. Look, technology is like fire. Fire is technology. The first, I would say, major technology is fire. Fire, you can use it to burn a house. You can use it to mold a steel. You can use it to cook, right? But it's all fire. I would say technology perception, the whole perception of technology is based on how you would want to use it. When you go to the young people, this is why I always talk about exposure, right? What are you exposing your kids to, right? What were we exposed to when we grew up, right? From, I would say, from The Simpsons up to BBC Click, right? There are choices that you make to expose people to, right? So that perception of technology, how it's perceived here, depends on how exposed you are to the technology, to the usage, to the benefits. When I make the decision to move full-time to Hasab AI, one of the profound moments would be me traveling to Kenya for an African Tech Summit. And I realized I can do a lot of things. I mean, there are people here doing an actual thing and young people actually impacting, right? And using technology and knowledge that I actually have, right? This goes across, be it journalism, media, whatever, right? Health, agriculture. So that single exposure to Kenya kind of gave me a direction. Okay, now I have thought about Hasab for a very long time. Now I have to do this full time because this is impactful, right? So that's how I want to put it. It's the exposure that you have, right? Look at the confidence of kids that grew up in the States and kids that grew up in Ethiopia. There are exceptions for both sides. There are very confident kids here in Ethiopia and there are less confidence from the States or wherever, right? What makes that difference? It's the exposure that they have, how they're perceived, who they interacted with. So if you don't control the input to anything, the output is inevitable. You don't have to look for a better output, right? It's the input that matters. So the perception comes from the input that people have about technology, right? It's the same technology that moves robots, it's the same technology that creates TikTok. It's the same prediction that predicts your next TikTok video. It's the same prediction that predicts a car from bumping and holding an automatic brake system. So what are you exposed to? More Instagram or more self-driving cars? More Click Ethiopia? Click Ethiopia is one of the pioneer TV programs, right? So this is what I'm saying. So the perception comes from the input and the exposure, and how they were faded.
Sure. Do you have virtues that you think are valuable for technologists? For example, I heard some people say if you're a technologist, persistence is one thing that you cannot compromise. You need to be persistent about the whole thing. And some other guy told me that humility is a base thing because you approach people, you pitch ideas, and you face rejections now and then. And you need to have that humility to learn and to actually start again. Do you have those kind of things?
Yeah. There are a couple of things that I put in my mind. I always consider whenever talking to people and everything. One is, especially in technology, you really do not have the full picture. Whoever you are, whatever level you are at. That's what I've learned. Look, from my position, I'm just a young guy. I'm in his 20s. I cannot say like I'm not belittling all the PhDs and everything. Okay. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, from what I've seen a lot of people thinking that they know everything. But there are so many new things happening every single day, and you cannot have a full picture of everything that's happening around the world. So if you're not open enough to listen, at least give a chance to learn, then your ego will be the main thing that will destroy you.
Wow.
So I would say humility, as you said, you have to be open enough to learn from anyone. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, they have their negative sides. But one thing you can't lie about is if you give it for a child and start searching a lot of technology stuff there, he might actually get a lot of new sources, new information about technologies than the one studying somewhere else in the university, right? So that is something. Second is you cannot look people, whatever you're thinking in technology. This is what my mentor said once. Whatever you're thinking right now, someone is thinking the same thing, the same exact thing. Again, not just one, multiple people are thinking the same thing, the same implementation, the same solution for the same problem at the same time. So don't think your idea is so novel, so unique, so new. No, it's not. There are people, you'll be surprised. Try to dig. So this is the final words of my mentor. He said, if you tell me you don't have a competitor, you don't know what you're doing, right? So that's also the other side of technology that I keep. One last thing, you don't have to be two things. You don't have to be naive, that thinking that technology is holy and saint and it's all for good and everything. And you don't have to think it's this evil monster, right? So you have to learn to balance this, and you have to be on the right side of that decision that you make, because you're dealing with a lot of sensitive information. It could be data. It could be human life. Imagine a self-driving car, right? Imagine you're reluctant enough not to learn how the brake system works, right? You're dealing with a lot of sensitive things, humans' lives, right? So you have to be compassionate. I don't know if that's the right word. You have to think. You have to know that there are people using that technology on the other end. It's not a mere. It's not just something. You're not just technology here. I built it. Whoever uses it. No, it's for people to use it. So you have to be considerate about the people. Imagine your kids, right? So I don't have a wife. I don't have a child. So whenever I say kids, it's about general kids.
Great. I heard you mention agriculture, health now and again. This is the other stereotype I have of this generation that I don't express often. That We know the backbone of Ethiopia's economy is agriculture, and innovation in medicine or innovation in health is a big thing for the development of a country. And I heard you say a lot about those areas. Do you really believe your peers, people around your age, understand the importance of these things to support them in innovation and technology?
I can't generalize.
All right.
I know for a fact there are a lot of young people, my friends, my friend group circle, even others that are really passionate about agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
If they have some things straightened out, I have heard a lot of friends from college as well stating, if everything is settled, I would want to go and farm. Young people, right? In our age, so in 20s, early 20s. And when you come to me, agriculture is something of passion. I would say I am very supportive of agriculture. I would say it's a foundation, not just to Ethiopia, not just because it's 80-70% of the country's GDP, but think about it, it's food at the end of the day, right? How many times do we eat a day? And if you do not think about agriculture and food, then you're missing the whole point, right? So, Thomas Sankara, that was the first African leader that I was very passionate about. Why I was passionate about agriculture. He mentioned about, if you don't feed yourself, if you're not reliant on yourself for your food, then whoever you rely on will direct your next path. Right? So this was, I read this on a history book, and so we have to do something. I was very passionate. So my GC project in college, when I graduated, my graduation project was a product called Agricultural Sensory Grid. And we built a recommendation tool for farmers based on the area that they're at. So it takes the soil, the temperature, the rain, it predicts the rain from weather information and everything, and will tell, if you plant sorghum, plant coffee beans, you'll be more profitable, and you get this much approximation. So that was my attempt, and that was a class project. Then we came again and did Kamasa Foods. That was the first startup idea that I had. Kamasa Foods was a project that connects farmers with businesses in cities, because every storekeeper, every grocery that you see, almost every, I would say, wakes up around 3 times a week to go to Garment or Piazza in the old days to bargain a better price and a better quality to buy onion and everything.
All right.
Now, look, imagine you close your shop, you lose your, and we're like, there must be a better way to do this, right? So, okay, if we aggregate the demand and if we aggregate the source from the farmers, we can actually connect this. Better money for the farmers, a faster delivery without a hassle, quality controlled product for the shops. You remove the waste from the middle. There's a lot of waste because you don't know how much demand there is at the side. So you lose a lot of money, a lot of food,
great.
So these are the projects that actually drive me to agriculture. Come back to health, same thing, right?
All right, great. I would want to mention a lot of things, but one thing I would be remiss if I don't mention here is, I'm curious to know what the next step is and what the next thing that you want to conquer when it comes to Hasab AI. Tell me about that, and we'll wrap up.
Great. At Hasab, currently, there are major projects, impact projects that we're working on. Of course, it's a commercial product. We have a commercial side for businesses, but in healthcare and agriculture, there are things that we're working on, and we want to expand this across Africa. In the next, I would say, 12 to 18 months, we want to expand to Swahili-speaking countries. 24 to 36, expand to Arabic-speaking countries. Right.
In Africa.
In Africa.
All right.
Then the Middle East.
All right.
So that's the long-term plan that we have. Impact-wise, we are trying to reach to refugees, right? We're trying to reach to the remote farmers without internet, without smartphones. Telegram is a fancy thing. How many people use Telegram? Right? We want this to be addressed to feature phones. How do we get there? How do we innovate, right? Because as a country, as a continent, we have a lot of necessities. Necessity, the mother of innovation, right? We believe we have a lot of room to innovate. So coming years, I would say, is that's the big goal that we have. Expand to African countries.
All right. Kidus, I'm really inspired. And it's always a pleasure to meet with you and talk about things of great importance for us as a humanity. I don't want to confine your ideas to Ethiopia or Africa as a humanity, because we talked about different things. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I've had the chance to meet you a couple of years back. Such a pleasure every time to meet you and discuss as well. Thank you for the organizers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kidus.
All right.